For my research study, I explored implementing technology into classroom writing instruction to see if it would increase academic achievement. My research question was, does the use of hands-on technology increase academic achievement of struggling writers in a classroom setting? This research study was performed in White House, Ohio. The participants included 30 sixth grade intervention students. All students were on IEPs. Students will aim to use 15 to 20 minutes of technology each class period during the course of the project. Available technologies included Teacher Smartboard, student MacBooks. We also had available the tools of Kahoot, Google Classroom, YouTube, Google Slides, and Google Docs. The dependent variable in this study was the struggling writer's academic achievement. The independent variable in this study was the use of hands-on technology during traditional classroom lesson time. The limitations in this study: internal validity, administration of pre- and post-assessment available to set some classes before others. Students may discuss writing projects or setup of assignment before the other classes. There was also data collector bias. All assessments were given by the classroom teacher or the classroom intervention specialist, who played a role in this discussion and was an active stakeholder in this study. Mortality, movement of student schedules, maturity and behavior. Student maturity and/or behavior may play a role in the understanding of material during the project, and also the allotment of time allowed for using technology. Measuring achievement. Students will complete a pre-writing assessment before using daily technology and assess based on the ODE's writing rubric. Scores will be recorded on Google Sheets. The teacher will indicate the grade range of pre-writing assignment, the actual score, and the areas to focus on based on the ODE writing rubric that will be used on their AIR test in the spring. This is an example of the results from the pre-assessment. Students were broken down into categories based on their scores on the initial pre-writing assignment. The rubric was from the state of Ohio, and it had 3 main categories: purpose, focus, and organization, which was worth 4 points, evidence and elaboration, which was worth another 4 points, and conventions, which was worth 2 points. The max score that students could have received on this rubric and this initial writing assignment was 10 points. As you can see, based on the scores and the results, the average student scored a 3.8 out of 10, which would have been a 38% for this assignment. The area of conventions, the average score was about a 0.5 point out of 2. The area of evidence and elaboration was a 1.5 out of 2. A 1.5 out of 4. And the area of purpose, focus, and organization was roughly about a 1.76 out of 4 points. As it was obvious to us when we started this study, all areas were a focus for us when we began exploring the different avenues we were going to have when students were on technology to help improve with their writing. Here's a breakdown of the pre-assessment results. The students were scored based on 10-point scale. 3.3% of the study group scored in the 1 to 2 point out of 10 on the initial pre-assessment. 80% of the students scored in the category of 3 to 4 points out of 10, and 16.7% of them scored in the 5 to 6 point category out of 10. Students also completed a post-writing assessment after the 2-week course study. Scores were also recorded on Google Sheets. The teacher indicated the grade range of the post-assessment, the actual score, and the areas to focus on for our flex group reteaching or academic assist time after the study was over with. It became very obvious to us after the 2 weeks were over that students were doing much better in all areas. So we were happy to see that the results were reflective of that. Most students maxed out in many of the categories that they prior had difficult time with. The new score for students, the average score, was 9.26 out of 10 for their final post-assessment. For the area of conventions, 1.8 out of 2 was the average score on their post, 3.5 out of 4 was their average score on the evidence and elaboration category, and 3.9 out of 4 for the purpose, focus, and organization. It became very clear to us that what we were doing in the classroom with our interventions and the ability for students to use technology was very reflective on how they were able to perform on this assignment. The breakdown for the post-assessment results. We had a total of 23% roughly scored in the 5 to 6 point out of 10 category for their final post-assessment, and 7 to 10 points was 76.7% of the population group. So we maxed out in terms of our results because many of our students that prior would have not had a passing score did end up with a passing score above and beyond what we had expected as a result of this study. As a reflection for this study, I have taught language arts for 7 years in a middle school setting, specifically 6th grade. It has been very clear to me, and for many years since we've been doing the online testing, that students are starting to find difficulty making the connections between writing paper pencil and then having to, in the spring, take a writing assignment, either an expository essay, an informative essay, or an argumentative essay, and they have to essentially type it out, plan it out, and check for any mistakes all through the computer. I have found that many students don't exactly feel comfortable in that setting because they either A, don't have the technology at home to practice with, or B, they just don't get enough time with hands-on technology to be confident in themselves to understand the writing process through not paper pencil as they were taught from a young age, but through a computer and hands-on technology. So I was very happy to see that my study was reflective of what I initially thought, that students do need to be taught how to use the computer to be able to go through the writing process, and also how they can use, for example, Google Docs to be able to peer edit and look for mistakes on the screen versus paper pencil. It became clear to me that the level of confidence that the students had as a result of this was very exciting for them because they saw their scores go up, and obviously that made them very happy to see that the work that they had put in the classroom was actually paying off when they got their scores for this post-assessment. To conclude, data from this study cannot be generalized to all language arts classrooms, but used to specifically help shape the writing class at Fallen Timbers Middle School for the 2017 to 2018 school year. Students showed an overall increase in their academic achievement scores throughout the course of this study. Technology will continue to be implemented into daily writing lessons throughout the course of the year. Students will take the EAR assessment in April, which may result in a more accurate reflection of the study's academic achievement results when comparing their 5th grade to 6th grade writing scores.